Hey everyone, today I want to speak about a hot topic that permeates every single integrative coaching call that we have during this 8-module program. Remember that we're in the business as parents to create responsible, independent young adults that have a solid decision-making process and they act with empathy and integrity. I want to speak about that topic, the big C, consequences. Every parent comes to me saying, my child needs to understand that the consequence for X is Y. Now let's think about what a consequence is. And we know that every living being on this earth has to adhere to that law, that an action has an effect. Even a kitten has to learn that. Your child learns that at a very young age. When they shake something around, it generally makes a noise. When they're getting taught how to climb up and down stairs, they get taught that the consequences, they get taught how to do it. And you kind of are standing behind your little one, but you're watching that they learn balance. How do they learn balance? By knowing that if that they can fall, which is the consequence of stepping incorrectly. So I want to talk about, there are 3 different kinds of consequence. There is the natural consequence, which is the most powerful way our children and we can all learn throughout our lives. And then there is a logical consequence, and then an illogical consequence or a punishment. So today I am creating a 3-part little series. Today we're going to talk about natural consequences. Next time we're going to delve into logical. And then we're going to find out how those illogical consequences permeate into our behaviors and form triggers. And that's how our brains link one to the other. But let's leave that for a little later. Let's talk about natural consequences. So a natural consequence could be for an adult or a child. If you drop food on the floor off of your plate, the natural consequence is that it is no longer in your plate, it is on the floor. The second, a parent or a child decides what to do about that, that becomes the logical side. If you drop a tennis ball, we know that it bounces up. That's a natural consequence. If you think about, if you run out into the rain, you get soaking wet, especially if it's a big thunderstorm. That's a natural consequence. Oftentimes, a natural consequence doesn't really meter the actual action. For instance, if a child or a teenager is yelling and screaming, the natural consequence could be that they have a sore throat, they get a headache the next day or the same day. But the other natural consequence that happens is that it affects the peer people around them, and it actually has an effect on those around them. And that's creating a trigger for others in their environment. If we think about a child that's sat and done their homework all afternoon, they've really tried hard with this project, go to bed early, off to school the next morning, and they realize as soon as they get there, and it's too late to go home, that they've left their homework at home. Now, the natural consequence of that is that they can't hand their homework in on time. And often as parents, we want to shield our children from natural consequences. We don't want them to be hurt. We don't want them to be physically hurt or emotionally hurt. So what happens when mom understands that little Jane has left her homework at home? She may be 17 years old, and this is a very important project for her marks for the rest of the year. Does mom allow the natural consequence to happen, or does she rush home and circumvent the natural consequence. And then I want to throw in, how many times has Jane forgotten her homework at home? Does it become easier and easier to work with because she understands that, oh, mom's going to go and save the day. I don't have to think that deeply. I can be forgetful. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to pay the next logical consequence that's going to be made by the teacher. I want you to just let that permeate, because that's a pretty good example of a natural consequence. We need to often just stay out of it and let it happen. If your child's going to jump out of a tree, or your teenager is going to do something silly, like jump off the roof on a dare, then you're definitely going to step in. But when it's something that is manageable, I implore you to stay out of that process and allow it to just happen. So I look forward to chatting to you in a few days' time about logical consequences, that time when an individual steps in. And brainstorming the most powerful way that logical consequences can have an incredible learning effect on your child. And the learning effect, remember, is to create children with solid thought and decision-making processes. And that's what we're doing here with understanding the consequences of actions. I look forward to jumping into logical and then illogical consequences. Thank you for listening.